Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Just Law on Iqra TV. I'm your host Ilyas Bulbulia and I'll be with you for the next hour. As our regular viewers are aware, on Just Law we do two things. First of all, we normally discuss an area of law which is of interest to you, our viewers. Secondly, more importantly, Just Law is a live show. So whatever questions that you have on any aspect of English law, you're able to call in and hopefully I should be able to give you some guidance in relation to the questions that you have. On this show, I should be able to cover most aspects of English law. We get numerous questions on immigration matters, which is fantastic. But in addition to that, even if your query relates to other matters, such as family law matters, personal injury matters, criminal law matters, road traffic matters, whatever it is, if you have a burning question and you want some advice in relation to that, or if you want a second opinion, please feel free to call in on the number that appears at the bottom of your screen, and hopefully I should be able to give you some guidance in relation to the questions that you have. As always, just a couple of points before we get going. Obviously on a live show it's not possible always to take very detailed information from people who call in. If it transpires that I need further information, I'll make arrangements for you to leave your number and I will call you back and we can have a more thorough discussion later on, or I will give you a preliminary review and advise you to seek your own independent advice. Secondly, sometimes it's difficult to look at obviously it's difficult to look at documents when you're live on air calling in. If it transpires that I do need to look at your documents, and again I'll ask you to send your documents in separately to me and then I can have a look and then have a more thorough discussion with you later on. But in my experience, with the vast majority of questions that are put to me, I should be able to deal with those questions live on air. Now, as always, we have a topic that we discuss. Before I start my topic, let's take our first call for the day. Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Thank you for calling.
How are you, brother? You all right?
Alhamdulillah, good. How are you? You okay?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Good.
I asked a question before as well.
Right.
Same question.
Okay, no problem.
Which is, I used to work on part-time
Okay,
around more than 1 year.
okay,
But now, because my visa condition is I'm dependent visa, which is a resident permit for 2.5 years.
okay. Dependent on your wife, is it?
My wife.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Like 10-year period, 5-year period.
Yeah. It's just
So I spoke to you last time. You said minimum you have to pay, which is like tax 6 or 7 month minimum.
Yep. Okay.
If you want to be on 5-year period.
Yes. Yep.
So I left my previous job, which is part time.
Okay.
I joined a new company, but they are not deducting my tax.
Okay, that's fine.
And I spoke to them. They're just taking on my national insurance number contribution.
Yeah.
And I spoke to them. I said, why? They said, unless you can give 11,500, then we can deduct your tax.
Yeah.
Because this is no company law, this is by law.
Yeah.
So my visa, my extension is due, which is in May, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm going to submit my passport in April.
I understand. Yep. Okay.
So what shall I do now?
There's no problem at all with that. They are right. Because what they do is, because you've started now towards the end of the financial year, where obviously in November now, if you haven't earned enough money from April to November 2019, let's take an example. Okay, you've only earned £4,000 from April to November. So from your personal allowance, which is in the region of about £11,500, you still got another £6,000-7,000 that you can earn before tax becomes payable. Now, they look at your salary and they look at the fact, okay, even if you continue working up until the end of March, in this financial year, you won't be using up your personal allowance. And that's the reason why there's no tax deductible. Because you didn't earn enough from April to November.
Of course.
You didn't use up your personal allowance. Therefore, there's no income tax deductible. But National Insurance has its own rules. National Insurance doesn't look at your earnings over the year. National Insurance, when it comes to those deductions, they look at your earnings in that particular week. So obviously, as you've said, NI is deductible because they're simply focusing on that week. As long as you earn more than about £160, £170 a week, NI has to be deducted. Income tax is completely different. Income tax looks at your earnings for the whole financial year, and if you don't earn enough from April to November, you've only got another 4 months left, 5 months left. If you're not going to use up your personal allowance, no tax will be deducted at all. Only NI will be deducted. So they're absolutely right in doing that. There is absolutely nothing to worry about on that at all.
All right. So, but I was wondering, might be Home Office, they will ask me in the end, why you didn't pay tax?
Because you're quite right. It does look odd when you look at the wage slip and you say, look, I'm earning £1,600 a month, and there's no income tax deducted at all, 0, and there's national insurance contributions of, let's say, about £150 being deducted. So the wage slip looks slightly odd, but there's a reason for that. No? So there's nothing at all to worry about. The Home Office hopefully understands that. Most caseworkers will understand why income tax isn't being deducted. Because the other thing is, when you look at your wage slip, if you look at the year-to-date figure on the wage slip, if the accountants have done it properly, your previous earnings would be added on to your current earnings in the year-to-date figure. And because the year-to-date figure doesn't reach by March, the 11,500, it's obvious that no tax can be deducted because of that.
Oh, right.
I mean, the thing is, if they did deduct tax, they'd have to refund you. So if the tax was deducted, because in that year personal allowance isn't used up, the HMRC would then adjust your tax code, or they would refund you. So there's absolutely nothing to worry about at all in what you've said.
Fine.
So it's absolutely fine. Just carry on as you are if you want to go back into the 5-year route.
Yes, thank you very much.
No problem at all. Thank you very much for your call. Thank you. Alaikum sir. It's just a question about spouse applications and the financial requirement. Now, today, what we're going to do is look at a topic we were looking at before, where we didn't really get to the end of that topic, which is how to make a successful nationality application. We've started this topic a couple of times before, but we haven't reached the end of that. Now, as I've said before, nationality is the end of the immigration journey. Obviously, it starts from somebody coming into the United Kingdom initially with their entry clearance, their visa, which then progresses to, after 2.5 years, somebody extending their visa in the United Kingdom, and ultimately, after having spent 5 years in the United Kingdom, it results in indefinite leave to remain being granted. Now, nationality is the process after, obviously, indefinite leave to remain is granted. Now, nationality is something which a number of different people who've come into the United Kingdom under various immigration categories will qualify for. It may be that you've come to the UK as a spouse of a British citizen. It may be that you've come to the UK as a work permit holder. It may be that you've spent a long time in the United Kingdom, and based on your long residence, you've been granted indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom. Whatever the category is which leads to you being granted indefinite leave to remain, all of those categories, ultimately then the next step will be for that to lead to nationality being granted. So all roads basically lead ultimately to indefinite leave to remain, and then to nationality being granted. That's for all routes which lead to permanent settlement. So it's not just the case that nationality applications obviously only applies to those who are here on spouse visas. Obviously, on this show we get a lot of questions on spouse visas, which is fantastic, but this is obviously something that applies to a whole range of different types of people who are here on different types of immigration visas, where they've managed to get indefinite leave and they are looking at nationality in the United Kingdom. There are different rules which apply depending on whether you've got a British spouse, whether you haven't got a British spouse, etc. But ultimately, there are 4 or 5 key requirements which need to be fulfilled. Let's look at, in broad terms, what these requirements are, then look at these in greater detail. First, sort of standard thing which shouldn't cause any problems is that Nationality is something that only adults can apply for. There's a completely separate process for children who wish to apply for British citizenship. For children, those who are under the age of 18, the route that they follow is to register as British citizens as opposed to applying for naturalisation. Although there are different terms which lead ultimately to the same thing, there are various different rules which apply to both categories. Today what we're looking at is adults who wish to apply for nationality in the United Kingdom. One of the main requirements is the fact that the person applying must have indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom. So you can't normally have a shortcut to nationality. It's a stepping stone from having leave to remain to gaining indefinite leave to remain and then applying for nationality. So one of the main requirements is that you must have indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom. We'll look at that in greater detail. One of the other main requirements is that you must have sufficient residence in the United Kingdom. Unlike some other countries where there isn't much emphasis on residence, for UK nationality there is an emphasis on residence. So most categories will require 5 years residence in the United Kingdom. If you're married to a British citizen, then you will need 3 years residence in the United Kingdom. So not only do you need indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom, residence is also an essential part of the nationality process. So it's really only open to those who have made United Kingdom their home. So it's not for somebody who lives elsewhere and simply wants to apply or gain a British nationality. Now, there are many other countries where nationality can be gained by investment being made or by some other method, by buying a property, etc. The UK doesn't have that. The UK nationality process for adults is quite straightforward in the sense that you must be in a route which first of all leads to 5 years in the United Kingdom, etc. So we'll look at that in greater detail after we've taken our first break. We'll be back in the next couple of minutes.